What's going on, everyone? How you doing? Thank you very much for joining me. This is a completely unannounced live stream. Just going to drop in and drop a couple of thoughts around client acquisition, and I guess more importantly, for anyone that is tuning in, what needs to happen prior to us making our offers to our potential clientele in order to get them to pay attention to what we have to say. Now, for those of you that don't know me, welcome. My name is Jamie Gardner. I'm a full-time coach to over 900 students across two absolutely amazing programs. And basically what I teach is the fundamentals of sales, marketing, and offer creation, specializing very specifically in how to acquire high-ticket, high-paying customers and clients without needing to hop on sales calls. Now, this is something I'm not against sales calls, by the way. I've done thousands of them in my time. I just like to be able to close without having to do any of that stuff. Also, a massive fan of simplicity. In fact, one of my favorite sayings is simplicity scales, complexity fails. And that allows me to do things like do a live stream while I'm in the middle of the ocean on a cruise ship, which is something that is very unique to me as well. So, anyway, here we are. If all that's of interest, feel free to hit the subscribe button if you're tagging in via YouTube. Of course, anyone on LinkedIn, feel free to drop a like and hashtag one in the comments. Just helps to get the message out to more folks, and hopefully I can help one of you out along the way. Right, got a little presentation I'm going to roll through, and I will share my screen and we can get jumping into it. Good England. Cool. Okay, so now this is on the presupposition that you have an offer dialed in. Like I say, one of my biggest things I like to do is really just launch imperfectly. I think one of the biggest issues with online marketers, generally speaking, is that they're waiting for everything to be perfectly aligned. They're waiting for the perfect offer, the perfect funnel, the perfect website. And I'm more about the other way around. I'm more about letting your marketplace dictate what they need. I'm more about getting that data in order for us to improve our offer as we move forward. Okay, so something that I'm a big fan of is having MVO, minimum viable offer. Basically, the bare bones that you'd be willing to take to market in order to see if there's interest there and get that feedback from your potential clientele along the way, right? So that's on the presupposition that you do have an offer dialed in. I will try to remember to leave links lying around if you need offer creation training as well. Now, starting at the beginning, okay, what we need is, of course, traffic. And one of the biggest issues I see for most new marketers, and this is a mistake that I made earlier on in my career as well, is basically trying to be everywhere at once. Now, there is very, very good strategies that will teach omnipresence, which is the idea that you are appearing on more than one place, and that does rapidly build trust for your audience. Having said that, if you are a solopreneur and you have a finite amount of time and energy throughout your day, and you're trying to glue together all these pieces of your business, it can be very, very counterintuitive and very counterproductive if you are trying to be in more places at the same time, right? So if you're trying to put content out on one platform and then you're syndicating it to others, that can work. Having said that, I'm a massive fan of just focusing that energy and sticking with one platform until you hit 10 to 50K per month, and then you can start to move on to the other platforms. And you've probably got cash flow, you've probably got VAs by that time, you've probably got all sorts of things happening that will allow you to then syndicate that content a lot easier as well. So anyway, starts with our traffic source. Now, pick one platform. I'm not going to say they're all the same. They all have their nuances, of course, but pick one platform and dedicate your time and energy to mastering that before you move on. That's the biggest key secret that I can give anyone at this point. Now, before we get into pitching, this is one of the big mistakes folks make, is that they will effectively go, hey, how's it going? Great to meet you. Here's what I've got to offer, and it's awesome. You should buy it. And don't get me wrong, I think that a direct response approach is quite important. You do need that, as far as I'm concerned. I think brand building can come off the back of that, but you need those results, you need that cash flow, and you're going to get that through a direct response approach as opposed to just general branding, overarching theme of your marketing strategy, meaning that it's just going to be a lot longer approach. So aim for the direct response approach. Can work when it goes to that point, but we need to develop that relationship. Now, of course, this is also going to be a little bit different if you are someone that is quite happy with phone calls. You're happy to have your calendar full. Like I say, I'm not against them. I've done thousands of them in my time, sold millions of dollars worth of products and services and coaching, all sorts of stuff through sales calls. I just like the idea of having my calendar free at this point of my business. And of course, if you are at say $10,000 to $20,000 per month, and you are looking to minimize what you're doing in terms of the impact, and I guess clearing up your calendar and seeing if this particular process could work for you, by all means, feel free to send me a DM or drop a comment below. I'm happy to reach out and have a discussion to see whether this could work for your business as well. So nurturing, we need to nurture our leads. We need to nurture people and build that trust and credibility and all that type of stuff. And the way that I personally do this is through communities. I find that having a community online is just paramount to the success of my business. I have a Facebook group. I really want to kind of hammer this home, though. It doesn't necessarily need to be specifically just on Facebook. I've got students that are on School, for example. There's different types of communities out there on Instagram, things like that. It really is just a place where you can actually develop that relationship with your audience and build that intimacy with your audience as well, right? Like I say, my preference is for groups, quite simply because, a number of reasons. Number one is you can extract a lot of data as a new entrant arrives into your community, right? So you're actually allowed to ask 3 questions. Very, very, very important for data mining. You can actually collect a lot of information about what their pain points are, what they're looking to achieve, and then basically leverage that in your content and in your offers in order to basically pre-sell a lot of what you're doing, which then makes a lot of the back-end sales process a lot easier as well. So nurturing, number one. Next, we're going to build some authority. Okay, what tends to happen is people are kind of like, oh, I'm creating value content and stuff, and no one's really buying my stuff. But the problem is that there is a plethora of information out there. Like if you go onto the internets right about now, there is billions of data pieces, probably trillions actually, to be honest. ChatGPT, all the AI stuff happening. There is loads of information. We don't necessarily need more information, which I know is a bit of an irony given me putting out this video, right? Bear with me with this one. What we need is a sense of authority. People need to trust that we have something to tell them that's going to help them out, right? And that needs to come first, because a lot of the time it's like, here's a valuable piece of content, and people are like, I'm not even going to read that because I don't know who you are, right? And so we need to be able to confirm in advance that we can actually help those people solve those problems. One of the ways that we can do that is to talk about ourselves and our achievements and what we've done, and don't do it in an egotistical based way. But if for anyone that caught the very start of this live, what I do, I've mentioned that I'm a coach to over 900 students. Didn't mention that I've sold millions of dollars of products and services online, but I have now. I've made a couple of offers along the way. That is just an authority-based, thing that I'm giving you guys along the way, right? It means that I'm developing authority as I'm going through it, because I have social proof. I have helped hundreds of students. So therefore, clearly, if I've helped hundreds of students and you're brand new to online marketing or affiliate marketing, all that type of stuff, and I'm like, hey, by the way, I've done some stuff, then clearly there's more credibility, more authority there. So therefore, there's going to be a deeper trust factor straight away. On the back of that is credibility and value. And so this is the order that you need to do it in, right? You need to give people a reason to actually listen to what you have to say. So that's the authority stuff, right? Talking about your wins along the way. And it can be very hard when you're getting started, I must admit, because you're like, well, hey, haven't made any sales yet. What am I doing? Well, you got to think outside the box, right? You can leverage, I guess, other things such as being able to generate inbound leads. That is a way that you can start to develop authority. You can make it on an implicit basis through your content, right? So for example, one of the things that I teach my students, and what I suggest everyone does as well, is like you talk about the implication of certain things. For example, I might say, one of my students, recently I caught up with him for dinner, and he confided in me that his business has done $2.4 million, which I thought was pretty damn good. And he credits around about $1 million a year to some of the advice I was able to give him along the way, which is pretty badass. I'm pretty happy with that. Can't sneeze at that, right? And so therefore, again, it just comes back to that thing of like, hey, I've given you a reason to now listen to what else I have to say, and then we move into more of the credibility and value, which is again, me just talking in an authentic way based on things that I've done, providing value. Some of you guys are going to start to think a little bit differently about client acquisition. You might have even had a couple of light bulb moments happen at this point already. You might go, actually, you know what? Yeah, because I've been more just going, here's my pitch, right? And wondering why I'm not closing to the extent that I could be. Now, again, like I say, I'm I'm agnostic when it comes to doing sales calls. I've done thousands of them in my time. Just where I'm at in my business, I'm preferring to lean the other way and not do them. Having said that, if you were doing sales calls and you're still using this exact approach in your content game, guess what's going to happen? You're going to spike up in your close rate. Why? Because you've already pre-sold them on you through your authority and your credibility and your value. By the time they actually hop on a call, they've probably consumed quite a bit of your content, meaning that it's going to be a lot easier to then ascend them to your back end stuff. I've had situations where I've had close rates of sort of 70-80%. Now, I won't say that is on high volume. By the way, this is a very, very minimal volume. But if I'm booking 5 calls a week and I'm closing 3 to 4 of them, it's not bad, right? Typically in those situations, what it is I've been able to present my offer. They've gone away and thought about it. I've just said, look, do you want to hop on a call? We can kind of just go through the nuts and bolts of this stuff, meaning that there is already buyer intent behind it. They have all the pricing. They have gone through the logical process of making that decision rather than being an emotional, high pressure sales situation. It's more like a consultative approach. And like I say, that's when those strike rates are going to be a lot higher as well, because the same thing's going to work. Now, like I say, that will work for sending the offer docs over as well. Now, from there, another really, 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 and I clenched my fist as I said this. It's so important to understand this, but you need to have one singular mechanism of conversion. One singular mechanism of conversion. Why is that? Well, what tends to happen is folks will, some days they'll try and close via a VSL. Some days they'll try and close a deal through a webinar. Other days they've got a call funnel. Other days they're just hammering the DMs. Other days, all sorts of different ways. They all work, by the way. But what tends to happen is if you're scattering your approach and you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that thing anymore. I'm going to only stick with webinars, or I'm just going to load up the sales calls, and that's my thing. Completely fine, just do that, but refine that process and hone in on it until you feel comfortable from stepping away from it. Right? I think that's the biggest mistake. Is a lot of folks will just go, okay, I'm going to book sales calls now, and then they don't do anything with it, or then they'll move over to closing through an offer doc, which is what I do, and then they can't get that to work, so then they go back to something else. And like I say, really, really important. One traffic source to start with, one method of conversion to start with. Feel free to play around with this as you go and your business grows, all that type of stuff. But if you've got one singular point of conversion, just going to be a lot easier to manage. Like I say, simplicity scales, complexity fails. One of my biggest things, right? So have that one method of conversion. Now, here's a little thing for you. A customer is someone that has purchased something via in a transactional nature, right? Typically, I would put this in the lower end of the price range, so sub $100 or $200, something like that. Usually on the lower end, because it means that there's less pressure on that buying decision, right? If it's not a high ticket service based thing, or a high ticket course or program or mentoring, all that type of stuff, which often involves a lot more thought behind the actual sales process itself. When it comes to a course or a workshop, or even a paid coaching course, something like that, usually there's less thought behind it. Usually folks will just jump straight through without too much friction there. Now, the reason why we want to define customers versus clients, as a client is something that I would typically want to work with longer term. Sometimes a customer just has that one tiny piece of their business they need help with. Could be, say, content, for example. So they buy a content course or a content workshop, and then they're done and dusted. They don't need any more help at that point. Having said that, though, what I will say is some really, really important things to bear in mind. A relationship will start once someone becomes a customer, right? So I have for example, got a very low end, front end course. It's $5. Now, having said that, someone buys it for $5. right, then over time they're going to discover that there's new things, new issues that are going to arise from their business. They're going to, I don't know, run into a roadblock when it comes to building out a funnel, or they run into a roadblock when it comes to scaling, or they need some more support in order to grow their business to where they want to go. And so therefore, over time, the LTV, lifetime customer value, is going to grow and grow and grow and grow if you can continue to serve these people. Okay. The other thing is that a buyer, if they've had a positive buying experience, is 60 to 70% more likely to buy based on your recommendation in future. Okay, this is an Adobe survey that they did regarding this stuff. Really, really powerful stuff. It also means that people are 9 times more likely to convert than an ice cold prospect if they are an existing customer. Number of different reasons. Like I say, that active transaction actually builds a ton of trust purely based on that. If they've gone through the material, they've actually had a ton of value out of it. They will also see that as being disproportionate to the investment that they put in. So therefore, they're more likely and open to purchasing again. Other part of it is just consumption, right? If they spend time consuming a workshop or whatever it may be, then they have spent more time with you, in which case then it's more likely that they're going to buy in future as well, right? So ideally, we look to build up our customer base. We can start to load up some ads with this stuff, which is going to liquidate our front end costs. And effectively, if we can liquidate that cost of acquiring one singular customer, we effectively have $1 million business, because we are acquiring customers, and then it's easier to send those folks to our next thing, right? Next offer, whatever that may be. Last but not least is the client acquisition process, right? So same thing that we do from converting, say, someone into a customer, a ticket client. Not that dissimilar. We're going to leverage a couple of things: deadlines, to create a sense of urgency, why they need to jump in at a given time. We also want to put in scarce, because we want to make sure that our resources, our time, which obviously is the only thing we can't ever buy back, is held in high regard. And in doing so, that's why we put a deadline in place, why we cap out the numbers depending on the size of our audience, and we promote this to our existing customer base, because they're more likely to convert than just an ice cold prospect anyway, right? And that's it. That's pretty much the entire thing, right? And so I just wanted to put this out there to kind of help you guys start to think about this flow a little bit more, from an overarching perspective, especially when it comes to, I guess, the acquiring of an actual client itself. Because a lot of the time, people miss the step here. They miss the nurturing, they miss the authority, miss the credibility, and in doing so, they are missing a vital step of that puzzle, right? And this is how, like say, I'm able to close $1,000 to $12,000 deals through nothing more than a simple Google Doc, which I can amend anytime I want. I can adjust, I can create a new offer from the back of it, all that type of stuff, right? So anyway, I hope this resonates for a couple of you. Hopefully you've had a couple of light bulbs. Drop a comment, let me know your thoughts below. And that's it. If you'd like to get some more information on how I help my customers out, by all means, feel free to reach out to me over on Facebook. Otherwise, you guys have been awesome. Really, really appreciate you tuning in, and look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. All right. Thanks very much.